First, let's talk about the blade itself. It was no simple axe or cleaver. Dr. Antoine Louis, a surgeon, and Tobias Schmidt, a German engineer, meticulously designed the guillotine with a specific purpose. They chose a blade with a 45-degree angle, not for its aesthetic, but for its function. A straight-edged blade like that on an axe relies on sheer brute force to crush and sever. The angled blade of the guillotine, however, combined the force of the falling weight with a slicing action, creating a clean surgical cut. This design was scientifically engineered to part flesh, bone and cartilage with minimal resistance, ensuring a swift decapitation. It was a macabre triumph of Enlightenment-era rationalism. But even the most perfectly designed blade will dull, and this is where the sheer volume of the executions becomes a central part of the story. During the Reign of Terror, from 1793 to 1794, the guillotine was not a sporadic ceremonial device, it was a tool of industrial-scale killing. We're not talking about 1 or 2 executions a week, we're talking about dozens a day. In Paris alone, over 1,300 people were guillotined in just 1 month in the summer of 1794. The blade would have been in constant use, hitting bone and tissue repeatedly. Think of it this way, what dulls a blade faster than anything else? Bone. While the guillotine was designed to pass between the vertebrae of the neck, this was not always a guarantee. The size and build of the condemned varied wildly. A large muscular man with a thick neck or a woman with a strong spine could pose a challenge. A dull blade, even by a hair, could mean the difference between a clean, instantaneous death and a horrifying, drawn-out ordeal. This was a nightmare for everyone involved, especially the executioner. This brings us to the professional side of the story. The executioners of the French Revolution were not just random citizens. They were a guild with a lineage and a reputation to uphold. The Sanson family, most famously Charles-Henri Sanson, were the official executioners of Paris for generations. They took immense pride in their work, grotesque as it was. For them, a botched execution was a sign of incompetence and a stain on their family name. It could incite the crowd, which was already on edge. A swift, clean execution was the ultimate measure of their professionalism. So while there is no surviving ledger titled Guillotine Blade Sharpening Schedule, we can infer the truth from these factors. The executioners would have treated their guillotine like a carpenter treats his saw or a butcher his knife. It was their most essential tool. They would have known from experience that a dull blade was a disaster waiting to happen. It is highly probable that the blade was sharpened at the end of each day of use, especially on days with a high volume of executions. The process would have involved removing the massive blade, grinding it on a large whetstone to restore its razor-sharp edge, and then carefully refitting it into the machine. Beyond daily maintenance, there's evidence of even more specialized care. Some historical accounts mention that the condemned or their families would occasionally pay a bribe to the executioner. This wasn't to secure a pardon, but to ensure a clean, swift death. This macabre payment would have gone directly towards ensuring the blade was in perfect condition. It was a final, desperate act of a family trying to spare their loved one from a prolonged and agonizing end. The fact that this was a known practice proves that the condition of the blade was a very real, very present concern for the people of the time. In conclusion, the question of how often the guillotine blade was sharpened reveals a chilling truth about the French Revolution. Even in the midst of its greatest chaos and bloodlust, there was a gruesome sense of order and professionalism. The executioners, far from being savage brutes, were skilled craftsmen who meticulously maintained their tools of death. The blade of the guillotine was not simply left to dull, it was a weapon of mass execution that demanded constant care, ensuring that its grim work could continue with horrifying efficiency. The very thought of a dull blade haunted the revolutionaries, the condemned, and the executioners alike. The fear of a botched execution was so great that it led to a gruesome yet strangely humane professional standard. If you were captivated by this grim look into the mechanics of the guillotine, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the unsettling corners of history. And let me know in the comments, what other gruesome historical questions do you want us to tackle next?